All right. Oops. Welcome, everybody. Can you hear me? Okay, good. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining today's webinar of the graduate program in programs in economics at the University of Calgary. So my name is Stefan Staubli, and I'm the graduate program director. And I will kick off today's webinar with giving you an overview of our graduate programs at the Department of Economics. But we also have a very exciting set of presentations by my colleagues who will talk about their research and also opportunities for graduate students, and followed by a presentation by Dr. Oxeby, who will talk about funding opportunities for
Excuse me, no audio.
hello, can you hear me again now?
There
Yeah,
we
now you're
go.
back.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
okay.
sorry. I'm sorry. I don't know, this is the worst moment that this could happen. Um, okay, thank you. Sorry. So yeah, we have an exciting set of presentations by my colleagues, and then Dr. Oxeby will talk about funding opportunities for graduate students. And at the end, we will have a Q&A session where you can ask your questions. And we're also very happy to have Merit Penny here, who is our graduate program advisor and just a fantastic source of knowledge for anything related to applications and administrative procedures around the graduate program. So she can jump in the Q&A as well. So you might wonder, why should you consider the University of Calgary as a place for your graduate education? So we are among the best economics departments in Canada. So according to a recent ranking, we are ranked 6th among all Canadian departments in Canada. And we are offering an extremely vibrant research environment. And that has translated into an exciting set of publications in the very best journals in the economics profession. So here's kind of a screenshot of recent publications by faculty members in our department in the very, very top journals. And there are more papers are forthcoming, and other faculty members have revised and resubmits at these top journals. Another reason why you should consider the University of Calgary is that we offer expertise in many, many areas, but perhaps we are best known for our expertise in environment and energy economics, where we are ranked the #1 department in Canada with 8 faculty members working in this area, including 2 Canada research chairs. And you will hear more about this area from Dr. Myers later in the webinar. But there are also many other areas where we have very strong expertise. So for example, in labor economics, innovation and productivity, public and health economics, political economy and behavioral information economics, international trade and macroeconomics, and also industrial organization and regulatory economics, where we're hiring an additional faculty member this year. But there are also, I think, many other reasons to join the University of Calgary or consider it for your graduate program. One reason is that we offer an extremely collegial environment with a very strong commitment to faculty-student interactions. We also offer very highly competitive financial aid packages, and our job outcomes have been very good in recent years. So that brings us actually directly to talking about who are our alumni. So here's just a selection of placements we had in the PhD program in recent history. So here is, for example, Dr. Ternivchan, who is now associate professor and Spencer Family Professor at McMaster University, working in international trade. Dr. Olena Ivus, an associate professor at Queen's University, or Dr. Juan Moreno Cruz, who is associate professor and Canada Research Chair at the University of Waterloo, working in energy and environmental economics. In the MA program, we also had many students who really enjoyed the time they had during their MA program at the University of Calgary. So here are just two examples. Brent Cohen, who was a data scientist at Twitter or X, and is now a data scientist at Stripe, who really enjoyed his time at the University of Calgary in his MA experience. Or Christina Runge, who is a senior consultant at Power Advisory, a consulting company that advises energy firms. But there have been also many other career successes in our MA program or our PhD program. So in the MA program, our students have found excellent positions in the industry, many of them working in the energy and sector or oil and gas sector downtown Calgary, or in other private sector companies, or also in the government sector. Many MA students have also gone on to continue their graduate education at very well-renowned PhD programs around the world. In the PhD program, we had excellent placements in academic placements among universities in Canada, but also abroad. Or many PhD students have also secured excellent positions in the government or also in the private sector. So yeah, that brings us to the next point, our programs that we offer. So we have two programs. The first is a Master of Arts, and the second is a Doctor of Philosophy. So let me dig briefly in each of those programs. So the Master of Arts is a course-based program that is 12 months in duration with a fall entry. So the program starts with a one-week math camp in late August. And then in the fall semester, students would take two core courses in econometrics and microtheory. They would take research methods and one or up to two field courses in the fall. In the winter semester, they take research methods and 4 field courses, or 3 field courses if in the fall they have taken 2 field courses. So a total of 5 field courses over the duration of the program. And then in the spring and summer, students have the opportunity to work on a research project on the supervision of a faculty member that they would complete in spring and summer, and then present at the end of the summer, at the end of August, in a small conference, and that would complete their MA degree. For the PhD program, our program is structured like the top PhD programs in North America. So in the first year, you would have core courses in microeconomics, macroeconomics, and econometrics. And at the end of the first year, you have qualifying exams in all 3 of those courses. And then in the second year, you would take 6 field courses and complete a second year research paper that can be ideally part of your dissertation later. And then in year 3 and onwards, you will work on your thesis research and attend research seminars. So as mentioned, we offer excellent financial aid that does vary by student, and it depends on a number of factors. But to give you an idea, for this year, the typical MA student would receive $19,500 in funding, and the typical PhD student would receive between $30,000 and $32,500 in funding annually. Students are also eligible for scholarships from the University of Calgary and from the Social Sciences Research Council of Canada. And so that would increase their funding. And there are also additional opportunities through graduate assistant positions, and you will hear more about those opportunities from Dr. Oxeby later in the webinar. So yeah, that brings me actually to the applications. So what are the requirements? Both for the MA and for the PhD degree, we require a minimum GPA of 3 out of a 4-point scale in the last 2 years and a 4-year degree from a recognized institution. For the PhD degree, you also need a master's degree from a recognized institution, though there is the possibility for strong MA students that they can transition from the MA program into the second year of the PhD program if they take the PhD courses in the first year of their MA program. And that's something that would need to be discussed with the graduate program director. There's also one thing that also reflects good on your application is a strong record in economics courses and mathematics. Additionally, you would need 3 reference letters, transcripts of prior course work. There's an application fee. And for international students, there is an English language proficiency test. So for example, a TOEFL score. But if your degree was taught in English, there is a waiver of this English language proficiency, and you can complete an application and send it to via email to artsgradsc@ucalgary.ca to request that waiver. So to apply, yeah, we're really looking forward to your applications. So the deadlines are as follows. For the PhD program, the deadline is January 5th, 2026, and for the MA program, it's January 15th, 2026. And there's further information here in this link. And I will also share these slides afterwards. I'm happy to share them with all of you. So you can see those links. So yeah, that's it from my side. So thanks for your interest about the program. There's some additional information here that you can find when I share the slides. So now let me stop here and pass it on to Dr. Wally, who will talk about his research. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stefan. That's a great review of the program. I'm excited to talk to you about innovation, productivity, and growth. Stefan, I did email you the slides that I was going to use. I wonder if you're able to display them. While we wait for Stefan, it's great to have you here, and I think we're doing a lot of really interesting work in innovation, productivity, and growth. I think it's a really interesting and important area right now. It's very, very topical. Thanks so much, Stefan. So going maybe the second slide. So the recent news that came out just in the fall is the Nobel Prize was awarded for economists working in the space. So Joel, Philippe, and Peter were just awarded this prize, and that really suggests like the success of the field and the opportunities for economists to really make a lot of progress there. Next slide. There's really big challenges in the space, though. One of the big challenges we have is ideas are getting harder to find. So what you can see is in this graph here, there's an increase in the number of researchers over time. So from 1930 to 2000, we have this huge increase in supply of researchers, but the productivity of researchers or their ability to find new knowledge is actually declining. So this is a major challenge for innovation. Innovation is basically getting harder, which really opens up this whole question of kind of why and what kind of policies can be used to improve that. How do we use innovation to drive economic growth? Next slide. Another big challenge, sort of in the labor literature, is the question about income inequality. I think Jean-William will touch on this going forward, but we've seen certainly in the United States and other countries around the world a large increase in income inequality since 1970 to today. And there's a lot of interest and questions of why is this happening and how do we think about that? Next slide, please. University of Calgary is really well positioned because we're actually having, as Stefan noted, some really important discoveries coming out of the basic research that's happening here. One thing that I've been working on is trying to measure the long-term effects of public R&D on economic growth, using the launch of sending a person to the moon and returning them in the 1960s as kind of a natural experiment to see what the effects are. Jean-William has some very nice work on salience and taxation, which is also kind of related to this theme. Next slide. We also do a lot in policy. Again, this is kind of foreshadowing, I think, other speakers, but Trevor Toom has been really active in trying to get out there and have discussions about productivity. What do people think about it? What are the policy options? How do we make progress on this? So this is kind of going back to this idea of trying to kickstart economic growth. What can we actually do? And so I think Calgary has a nice blend of sort of that more maybe basic science piece and also policy, and really trying to put the two together so we work on things that actually have real impact. Next slide. We have a lot of faculty working in the space. So innovation and growth, we have, I think, 4 people that you should be aware of: Benjamin Cross, Amir Hashmi, Trevor Toom, myself. In terms of labor, we also have a large group: Len Goff, John William Laliberté, Atsuko Tanaka, Lindsay Teds, Jennifer Winter. I think when you're choosing a department to go to, or you're thinking about where to do your graduate school, you want to look at who are the faculty, what kind of work are they actually doing. You want to work with people who are doing things you're excited about. They can really mentor you and help you take the next step. Next slide, please. The sort of common questions in general I think students have is what tools to consider. I think really the faculty is what you should look at. I think at Calgary we have a great group. People get along well. They're really committed to students. And choosing between them, that's another part as well. You want to see that the schools specialize in things you're interested in. You want to see that students are working on things you're interested in. In terms of being a successful applicant, I think we're really looking for students, certainly the PhD level, who are committed to really becoming outstanding researchers and trying to do the best work that they can. And so that's it for me. That's all I have to add. I want to turn it over to the next speaker. Unfortunately, I have to go teach, so I won't be here at the end for question and answer, but I'm happy to email any questions that any students have. So thanks very much, and I'll turn it over to the next speaker.
Great. Thanks, Alex. So I think I'm next up. Let's see. I don't know. Okay. So as Stefan mentioned, energy and environmental economics is a big strength in our department. And in fact, we're the #1 department in Canada in this sub area. So one of the main reasons for that is just what a concentration we have of faculty doing work in this area. And our work ranges a wide variety of topics, from electricity and the energy transition to oil and gas markets, Indigenous rights in development, behavioral economics, trade in the environment. So we have a really broad diversity of topics. And, you know, so I'm Erica Myers, and I do work on how households and firms respond to energy prices, programs, and information. And I use experiments, administrative data to understand energy demand and behavioral frictions. Sarah Johnston is brand new faculty here. Our newest Canada Research Chair in sustainability. And she does work on resource economics and electricity markets. Lucia Mullenbach studies oil and gas development, environmental regulation, and resource extraction, including issues with Indigenous land. Blake Schaefer focuses on electricity markets, climate policy, and the energy transition. And his work often partners with utilities or private app developers in thinking about EV charging decisions and things like that. Scott Taylor is world-renowned for his work on trade and the environment. Trevor Toom, among other things, has some expertise in fiscal federalism and carbon pricing. And David Walls as well works in energy systems, transportation, and regulation. So we've got this breadth of knowledge across many different faculty. And because of that, you know, what makes us, we're #1 in Canada across a lot of different areas. So we have the most citations in energy and environmental economics. We've brought in over $18 million in research funding in the last 5 years in this area. So we've got a lot of resources to support students doing work in this area. We have affiliations with some of the most prestigious research organizations, as well as editorial positions in the top journals in the field. So an exciting place to be if you're interested in this stuff. And then I'm just going to do another set of slides here. So in addition to the poster, I wanted to highlight a couple of other things. So first, we have unique opportunities for students to get involved with data and research opportunities with partners. So multiple faculty are working with utilities in Canada and partnering with them to do research, to do randomized control trials, or to analyze programs that are already in the field. And as a result, we have access to administrative data and energy consumption data from several different utilities. So that's something that as graduate students can be a real advantage to be able to tap into this kind of data. That's not necessarily easy to get. We have an ongoing partnership with OptiWatt, who is an app that optimizes EV charging and smart thermostat usage around various electricity rates, and we're actively involved with them in designing field experiments. So that's a great opportunity for students. And then just to give you a broader sense of the type of areas of active research we have going among faculty in this area, beyond just the EV and smart thermostat behavior, we've got experiments going in electrification and heat pump adoption, behavioral interventions to prevent blackouts in Vietnam, the impact of oil and gas regulations on producing First Nations, impact of shipping noise on marine mammals, and internet connection costs and renewables integration. So these topics aren't just of academic interest, but we often have connection to real world policy. These are questions that governments, NGOs, utilities are interested in having answers to, and we're regularly in contact with those groups. In addition to that, we have community events in energy and environmental space. So one thing we do is once a month, we have a multidisciplinary electricity lunch, which is campus-wide, and we get together with folks in electrical engineering, people in the earth sciences, people in economics, and it's been a real way to build community in this area, as well as create multidisciplinary partnerships, which are often really useful in the area of energy and environmental economics. So for example, as a result of this lunch, we're working with some electrical engineers on a project where we're doing a field experiment on how people respond to incentives on when to charge their EVs, and then they're going to sort of take those behavioral responses and model what does that mean for upgrades that you'd have to do to the grid. Another thing we have is every year in May, we have an electricity camp held in Banff, which graduate students are encouraged to attend, welcome to attend, which is a policy workshop bringing together academics, policymakers, practitioners, and leaders from Indigenous communities from across Canada to discuss leading research and policy developments related to electricity markets and policy. And that's another great opportunity where we've made partnerships with some of these groups as a result of our work there. And then finally, we bring in outside speakers, top outside speakers from all over the world, usually 5 to 6 specific in the area of energy and environment each year. So just to wrap it up, we've got PhD graduates who've gone on to become Canada Research Chairs and faculty members at leading global universities. So if you're passionate about this area, about climate change, energy systems, or environmental policy, and you want to combine rigorous economics with real-world impact, then Calgary is the place to do it. We've got this really high concentration of faculty members working in this area, exceptional data access, and a welcoming community that is eager to train the next generation of scholars. So I'll end there.
Thank you very much, Erica. I think next up will be Dr. Toom.
Great. Thanks, Stefan. And thanks to everyone for taking the time today. I'm thrilled to talk to you about, I guess, 3 areas, policy kind of in general, and the unique connections that we have at the University of Calgary between the economics department and the School of Public Policy. here on campus, and also some of the more interesting areas in need of a great deal of research and work. And that's kind of public economics and trade. And why I think this is a really interesting set of areas to think about, and why policy matters quite a bit, maybe now more than it has mattered in some time, is simply because the world is in flux, let's say. So what we're looking at here is a particular measure of policy uncertainty put together by Baker, Bloom, and Davis, and many others too, for lots of countries, about 20 countries around the world. So I'm showing you here their measure of uncertainty, policy uncertainty, sorry, in Canada. And notice that 2025 is kind of an interesting period where it spiked up quite a bit earlier this year, largely because of big changes in the United States. It's come down since, but remains at a level that's comparable to the worst moment in the pandemic. And so Canada gives a really unique setting to think about a lot of the issues that I think will be dominating the economic agenda for many years to come. One is, of course, trade. The trade has always been a very important component of Canada's economy, and historically about 1/5 of overall economic activity accounted for by exports, and a similar share for imports, and today about 1/3. So a very large fraction of our economy is tied into trade, and a lot of that tied into the United States. And so it's a really great place to think about those issues. And I'll talk about some of the strengths that we have among faculty in this area. And we have work that goes beyond just thinking about trade in general and the gains from trade for Canada specifically, but trade policy questions are also back at the top of the agenda here and in many countries around the world, for the simple reason that we are experiencing the largest trade policy shock in U.S. history, with average effective tariffs levied there on imports just under 20% right now. And so that sharp increase, we've just never seen it before. And given how tightly integrated a lot of economies are, kind of understanding the implications of all of this will be very important. It's also a time to think really hard about public finance questions and public economics generally, where we also have a great deal of strength in the department. And a lot of things to think about, of course, aging populations and how we manage those pressures. Very large question in many countries as economies slow or economies slow as a result of trade shocks. How do we think about unemployment and adjustment to that? Trade shocks always naturally lead to big adjustments too. How do governments think about facilitating that and so on? Rising public debt levels also from COVID, from pressures now from increased military spending in different countries, pressures from aging populations too, and healthcare and so on and so forth, means that there are a lot of important ways in which you as a master's student or as a doctorate student here can contribute to what we know about these issues through your research. And given how important they are, some of the classes that you'll take will be focusing on a lot of topics that have direct relevance to critically important things happening today. So this kind of policy relevant, this kind of policy relevant set of courses that we offer is pretty broad, especially in public and in trade. Good emphasis on a combination of both theory and empirical and computational techniques in both. And so it trains you up with a set of skills that are useful even far beyond these fields themselves. So for example, in the trade class that I'll teach, we explore both a lot of causal inferences and how you measure gains from trade in a causal way with data and interesting identification strategies. And so we'll explore some of the top papers there, try and replicate some of them with real data as well. And also learn how to code and work with computable general equilibrium models of the world economy to explore what happens when you implement a tariff in one country, what happens to GDP in another, all within the same course. And so that kind of mixture is, I think, uniquely strong in these areas of trade and public. There's a lot of other faculty with big strength in this area as well. Stefan, who you heard from, myself, Professor Teds and Kneebone as well do interesting work in this area and in trade. Erica mentioned Professor Taylor, who's top in the field of energy and environment, also a top world-class trade economist as well. that you can learn from, and myself and Eugene Beaulieu as well. Now, even beyond these two fields, I should emphasize that a lot of the faculty here do work that is incredibly policy relevant, where there's also potential for or opportunities for you as a graduate student to also connect in to the School of Public Policy. We have some who take on teaching assistant roles here or RA positions with different faculty at the school. There are some faculty who kind of have time being split between the two units on campus, myself being one, Ron Kneebone another, Eugene did, but now he's fully back in econ. So there's a lot of interesting flow there as well. Finally, and then whoops. And then sorry, I screwed up my slides. Let me just bring it back. There we go. One last quick point in addition to the TA and RA opportunities that I mentioned both in economics and at the School of Public Policy is we also run annually a lot of conferences in these fields. So every single year we run the Rocky Mountain Empirical Trade Conference in Banff. And Erica mentioned the electricity camp as well. These are 2 of 5 that we regularly run in different areas. Professor Wally and I have now 2 years in a row, and hopefully that'll continue, have a productivity-focused event as well, really looking at top research there. Other faculty put on a more of a microeconomic focused conference as well. And I'm drawing a blank off the top of my head about what the 5th one is, but very active in terms of your ability here to connect into top researchers elsewhere and to develop a lot of the practical skills that are very useful to you if you continue in further graduate work, if you're coming as an MA, or to have real skills that will add value to an employer, both on the data and the coding side of things. All right, I think I'll end it there, and I believe I'm passing it off to Professor Lily Berthet.
Okay, thanks a lot, Trevor. Let me just share some slides here. 1 second. Okay, my name is Jean-William Laliberté. I'm a professor here at the University of Calgary. I do work on inequality, mostly in labor and public economics. And I essentially want to emphasize today that one massive or very important trend in economics over the past decades is that economics has become more and more of an empirical field. So if you look at trends in publications, in top journals over time, not only are empirical papers more and more important, representing a larger share of all publications or a larger share of the work economists do, but interestingly, more and more papers rely on administrative data. So there's more and more people working with these large administrative data sets. So there's a high returns to acquiring the skills when it comes to being able to work with large data, code in large data, and understand the data infrastructure that relies on these administrative data. So what I wanted to do is to give you a couple of examples of what these administrative data can do in Canada, and especially at the University of Calgary. So I just want to highlight some work that I and others here at the University of Calgary have done with administrative data. And then we'll talk a little bit about how, if you were to join our program, we could assist you in getting access to these fantastic data and give you, provide you with guidance and expertise when it comes to mastering the admin data toolkit. So one empirical example I want to give you, these are the type of questions we can work on that I think could not have been studied just a few years back, but thanks to the newly available Canadian administrative data. So here, this is a question I was asking myself a couple of years ago, which is it the case that career choices, and by that I mean the choices of which occupation to pursue, drive intergenerational income mobility? Is it the case that kids who grew up in richer households are more likely to be rich themselves because they pursue higher paying occupations, often the occupations that their own parents held? So here, what I'm showing you on this graph is essentially the correlation between or across 500 occupations in Canada, where on the vertical axis, I'm showing you occupations in terms of their returns, economic returns. So think of this as high versus low paying occupations. And then on the horizontal axis, I'm essentially saying of those who make it into these careers, where do they come from? What is the average parental income of the family they grew up in? So it essentially means, are the people who are pursuing these occupations, did they grow up in rich or poor families? This calculating these measures require an insane amount of data. You need to observe enough people in each occupation. You need to know how much they are making themselves in income, but you also need to know who their parents are and how much their own parents were making in the labor market. Turns out that now this is feasible with Canadian administrative data. And what you find here, for instance, and these are interesting patterns, I believe, is that these occupations that I highlighted in red, both in the north east and the southwest quadrant of this figure, are occupations that tend to perpetuate inequality across occupations, because these are occupations that, say in the northeast, disproportionately draw people from rich family and pay a lot too. So we're talking about lawyers, physicians, dentists. At the other end, we're looking at lower paying occupations like cooks and people working in the seafood industry. Well, they tend to themselves have come from lower income families. And so this perpetuates this cycle of low income across generations. But what's kind of interesting in the Canadian context is there are some jobs that do essentially foster mobility across generations. So that would be at the bottom right here. So that would be occupations that pay a little less than you would expect, but disproportionately draw people from high income families. So mostly in the humanities and the arts and university professors, perhaps unfortunately for us. But then in the other quadrant, you see that there's a whole bunch of jobs in the oil and gas sector, and a sector that is extremely important in Calgary, and that this department is really good at understanding, given our expertise in energy and environmental economics. So this is the type of work you could do with administrative data, looking at these correlational patterns. Other types of questions you may ask yourself is it the case that children are more likely to work at specific firms if they know someone there, if they have a social contact there? Here in work with other university professor at Calgary, Alex Wally, who spoke earlier in this webinar, we essentially wanted to look at kids who end up working at the exact same firm that also either employed their parents or a firm that their parent owned. And so essentially their parents were hiring their own kids into their own firm, and we wanted to see to what extent that explains the persistence of income across generations. To see whether the firms who engage in that sort of behavior, those firms that essentially hired children of their employees, or firms where the owner was hiring their own kid, we wanted to know if this was economically efficient. And so we looked at what happens to these firms when they choose to hire someone, a kid who is connected to either one of their employees or the business owner. We essentially were able to access firm level, confidential level data for all firms in Canada, look at when exactly these firms hired the child of one of their employees or the child of the owner of the business. And then we essentially looked over time what happened to firm performance around the time the child joins the firm. And what we see is that in especially in cases where the parent in question owns the business, when their own children joins the firm here around year 0, you see a sharp decrease in revenue per worker and log value added per worker, which we took as evidence that at least in those specific cases, children might be receiving preferential treatment. And that speaks to a whole host of economic models in terms of how people match with employers and on what basis. Turns out that these fantastic administrative data allowed us to study these questions in ways that were not possible before. And one last example I want to give is, again, work with folks here at the University of Calgary. So myself and Stefan Stauli, who talked to you earlier, but also one of our graduate students, Sancher Karadimir, who is a co-author on this paper, where here we essentially linked across 3 generations, and we used tax data for the universe of tax filers in Canada, and we essentially looked at across 3 generations, and we wanted to see if it's really the case that when you become a grandparent, meaning your own kids are becoming parents themselves, does that affect your own labor market outcomes, your earnings trajectories? And we wanted specifically to see if there was a gender component to that. Is it the case that when women become grandmothers, they play a more important role in terms of caregiving for their grandchildren, which may lead them to work a little less relative to grandfathers. And what we see here is that we're essentially tracing out the evolution of people's earnings around the time that they become a grandparent for the very first time, something that is generally not measurable in most data sets, but we were able to infer through these linkages across generations using big data. And what we did find is that indeed, it seems like grandmothers took a larger economic hit when they became grandmothers relative to grandfathers. So the common theme in all of these three research papers is that they're all based on large administrative data sets that were put together by Statistics Canada and can be accessed here on site at the University of Calgary. It's a different building, but I see the building right here from my window. It's a short 2-minute walk from the economics department. Many of our graduate students end up working with these confidential data sets. And that is also true of many faculty members like Alex Wally and Stefan Stelby and I. So what this means is that we have built over time a strong expertise in managing these big data projects. And we are really looking forward to you potentially joining in the department and sharing that expertise with you if these big data projects are of any interest to you. Thank you. I think I'm now going to share the mic to Dr. Oxley.
Hi, everyone. For some reason, I'm not able to share, Stefan. Can you?
Yeah, I have your slides here. I can.
Oh,
share.
I changed them a little bit. So
Okay.
let me
Well,
see. Oh, just go
okay.
for what you have there. Go for what you have there.
Oh,
That's fine.
wait. Interesting that you can try to share and send me a request, maybe a share request. Wait, I changed it now to all participants. So
Okay, I got it now. Great, thank you.
can you share? Okay.
Oh, my apology. So I'm not sure which slide you see. Do you see the proper one or the?
We see the small screen,
Okay,
like yeah.
hold on. My apologies. I just had to update this, so let's try this again. Well, that's all I'm getting right now, so we'll go with that. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to come and spend some time and learn about the program. I'm going to talk a little bit about the funding that's available in Department of Economics. And in particular, I'm breaking this down into federal, university, and departmental funding. Really, if you're thinking about doing a PhD or an MA in Canada, I strongly encourage you to think about applying for this grants from the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council. They have two grants for the programs. The first is the doctoral scholarship, which is a $40,000 a year award for up to 3 years. And the deadline for this was in August, but I bring it up now because if you enter the PhD program, this is definitely something you should be applying for next August. And one of the nice things about this program is that it's open to both international and domestic students. There's also the Master's Scholarship, which is $27,000 for a 1-year award. The deadline for this is December 1st. And so, again, I'm strongly encouraging you, if you're interested in pursuing the MA program here, to consider applying for this grant as well. As opposed to the PhD grant, the doctoral grant, this is limited to domestic students only, citizens and permanent residents. But one of the things that's nice about this is if you apply for this, you're automatically considered for the provincial Alberta Graduate Excellence Scholarship, which varies between $11,000 and $15,000 based on the last few years. And that's something that's available to you automatically when you apply for the MA program or for the MA scholarship. There's also, within the University of Calgary Graduate Award Competition. And this is something that all incoming students are eligible for, and applications open November 1st. And what's nice is you apply at the same time that you're applying for your program. So within the program specific application, you will also be applying for the University of Calgary Graduates Awards competition. Now, these awards vary by discipline and by program and by faculty, but they vary between $7,000 and $36,000 based on recent numbers. So let me say something kind of more practical. Those are the details of where you should apply for funding. Let me talk a little bit about how you should apply for funding, because your funding is based on a number of things. You know, your competitiveness in getting funding is based on a number of things. The first is your academic standing, which, for lack of a better word, is your grades. I distinguish that from your academic credentials and skills, because these are something slightly different in the sense that, you know, you may have expertise in certain software applications and certain econometric methods and certain modeling techniques that you may want to emphasize in your application through other means beyond just your transcript. The important way to do this is through your statement of purpose, and I'll talk about that a little bit, but you have to develop a statement of purpose for both your application and for your admission application and for the grants. You'll also need letters of reference, and letters of reference typically come from faculty members or former employers. Let me say a little bit about the statement of purpose. Your statement of purpose really has to do three things, and you're constrained. Typically, you only have a page, maybe 2 pages. You have to explain what you want to do, and being specific there about what your goals. Too often, we read proposals that say, or statements of purpose that says, since I was a small child, I was interested in economics. And that boilerplate stuff doesn't really tell us a lot about specifics. So it's important to be specific about what you want to do with your PhD, or your MA, what you're interested in studying. The other thing that's important is, why do you want to do it at the University of Calgary? Maybe there are professors here that you want to work with in the environmental sphere, in the public policy sphere, in the labor sphere, or elsewhere. And so in your statement of purpose, mentioning that you're interested in working in the complementarities that may exist between your interest and faculty there. And the third thing that granting agencies look for is, are you the right person to do it? And this is where you can make the distinction between what your grades are and what your academic credentials are. What are the skills that you bring to this problem, and where are your comparative advantages? Oops. This is a little typo, but for your letters of reference, let me just make an emphasis here that for your letters of reference, make sure you contact your letter writers early, share your statement of purpose early and get feedback from them, and share an unofficial copy of your transcripts. And it's always important as a professor, remind your professors how you know them. You know, I took your class at this time in this thing and we met in this way, just to help the professor. At the department level, we have a number of departmental scholarships that are available that get awarded competitively at the time of admissions. And this is a list of them. And also, we have teaching and research assistantship opportunities. These vary, but on average, they're about $9,000 per semester for about 20 hours a week work, 20 hours of work per week. The teaching assistantships, these are a way that a lot of our MA students are funded. And these help in the administration of courses, you lead tutorials, and you assist in student assessment. One of the nice things about this is that you develop skills working with students, working in the classroom, and you develop some insights into curriculum development, which may be skills you're going to use later on. Research assistantships provide opportunities for students to work closely with faculty members. And these are awarded on a more, relational basis when you meet your faculty members and you talk to faculty members about the research they have going and where your interests dovetail with theirs. What's nice about these is they give you practical experience oftentimes in working with data and delving into specific literatures that the faculty members are researching. That's what I've got on funding. If anybody has any questions, I'll be around for a little bit afterwards. So, but I'd like to turn it over to Merritt.
Thank
sorry.
you. That's fine. Thank you, Rob. Yeah, I think that concludes our presentations we had. Thanks. But so we can now turn to Q&A, and I think Merit will be a very crucial part for answering questions there as well. But so yeah, we have already answered some questions, I guess, in the chat. But yeah, I want to open the floor, I guess, to attendees, and if there are questions you have about what you heard today or about the program, so please feel free to ask your questions directly, either by unmuting or in the chat. So there was a question whether a low GRE score will impact funding. So yeah, the GRE score is only one of several criteria that go into your application, right? And so a low GRE score by itself would not be a criteria would not mean you would get low funding or not excluded from having an offer if your application is strong on the other criteria. So.
Hello, Stefan.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, my name is Isaac. I did my master's at the University of I still need to write the GRE test before applying.
I'm not sure I got that question. Did anybody?
I did my master's in economics at the University of Waterloo, but I still write the GRE.
You did your master's at the University of Waterloo, and
I still write the GRE.
You are not, so the GRE score is not required for application for our programs. We do recommend a GRE score because that, especially if you come from a university that maybe we don't know as well, then a GRE score can be very helpful for your application, but it's not something that is required for the application. There was a question for Dr. Oxaby. I don't know if you're still around, Rob. Okay. So the question was whether experience or skills developed through work experience would also count or taken into account in the application and so on. And of course, that is something that can reflect very, or will be taken into account when making an admission decision. Yeah. Is there an age limit for?
I have a question. Oh, okay.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yes, my name is Merlin. Thank you for the presentation, which was very interesting. Okay, my first question is about the transcript that had to be uploaded online, because I come from Cameroon. I did a bachelor degree, and there the teaching system was in French. So I want to be sure if it is obligatory that I should translate my results script before submitting, because it can take me some time. I want to be sure about that.
Yes. Hello, Merlin. Yes, we do require a translated transcript uploaded to the application by January 15th for the master's, January 5th for the PhD. Okay.
Okay, the second question was, as I already asked in the chat, if there were some professors working with machine learning models, because in 2022-2023, I did a master's program in France at the University of Cergy-Pontoise, where I worked with long and short-term memories on consumer price index. That was mainly a question of research about forecasting. So I am really interested about that. So I just wanted to be sure that some professors are like interesting about or what machine learning models can do regarding forecasting of data today, because everything you are trying to do turns around data, and providing a model that is like being precise on what is being done, taking notes of past information is very important. So that's it. Okay.
Yeah, we have several faculty members, particularly those that are teaching econometrics, who are also very interested in machine learning. And there is actually also a course that we offer at the graduate program that is specific for a machine learning course. So that is regularly offered. And there is also a capstone class in data analytics and data science. So yeah, there are faculty members interested in working with machine learning models. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
So I think there were 2 more questions in the chat here, several. So is there an age limit? There is no age limit for the application. So yeah, that can be there. Yeah, there is no age limit for doing the graduate program. The resources provided by the University of Calgary's library, and if there are any highlights, strong points you feel are relevant to the MA program. So yeah, I mean, the University of Calgary library has a lot of resources available for research, and so we typically have at the beginning of the MA program, there is an orientation week, a block week, where you have the math camp, and somebody from the library will come over and give a presentation about the resources available to the MA students. And the library is accessible to you, so it's also a great place to work for students, and yeah, there are lots of resources available there. A master's student in economics of York, but my program course base is not research based. So yeah, the question is whether it does matter for the PhD application, whether the MA program is a course-based or a research-based program. That does not matter, right, in principle. So we have many students that come to our PhD program from a course-based program, and all what is required is a master's program. Oh yeah, you're married already. We applied. Yes. Sorry, I only saw that now. Sorry. Thank you. Are there other metrics such as accomplishments, publications, or sponsorship also taken into consideration in the MA applications? Yeah, of course, right? So there are many factors that are taken into consideration. So publications, of course, will be relevant. For the other accomplishments, right, outside academia, can also be reflecting very favorably on your applications. And so I think you also will have a chance to write a letter of motivation why you want to come to the University of Calgary. And I think in that part of the application, that's kind of there's a chance for you to highlight those other accomplishments and your motivation for pursuing a graduate program. Merit already replied that too. Okay, thank you. Good. Sorry. Yeah. So I think those were. So there's a question about the GRE score right now, or can send it from ETS later after the confirmation of admission. I think we would need it at the time by the application deadline. Is that correct, Merit? Yeah. Okay, I see some nodding.
Yes, we have a field for the applicant to upload it into the application by January 15th. For master's, January 5th for PhD. And the reason why we don't have a research sample for the application is because we ask why you want to be in the program. And we're encouraging you to speak about your research proposal and the reasons why you'd like to be here in that question in the application. However, yes, you will need to submit a research proposal for your SSHRC scholarship application that you will do in August for a doctoral level. So you will have time to write your research proposal for the science SHRC application for August deadline, but not required for the application to program. Does that make sense? Yep. Okay.
Thank you, Merit.
Okay.
Yeah, I missed that question. Yeah. Okay, great. Softwares, I mean, are necessary for the PhD program. I mean, in principle, none is necessary for the admission, right? But during your PhD, many of our students will work empirically or theoretically using a variety of softwares. And so that can be from Stata, R, or Python, or also MATLAB if you do more maybe theoretical work as well, or simulations. And so, yeah, these are things that, but this is not required at admission stage per se. That's something you can learn while on the program. Yeah, Stata as well, yeah.
Although we have Stata available for the student to use in the library, the computers in our library or in our basement have Stata.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, that software. Yeah, we also have a department license available for PhD and MA students, but there is a kind of a caveat that it can only be installed on university-owned equipment. But students can also have a desktop, ask for a desktop computer to be installed in their office, where Stata can be installed.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, we would need that GRE score at the time of application in order for the review. So you do have time to take the GRE test. So would be encouraged to supply the GRE score for the January deadlines. Application is open now. I did add the link in the chat so you can look at the application. And then if you have any questions regarding, you may email me directly .ca and I will answer your questions regarding the application and submitting that for the MA course-based program and for the PhD.
Thank you, Merit.
Thanks.
So, So a question was, do students choose a research topic? If the topic is interdisciplinary, can more than one supervisor work with the student? The answer here is both times yes. So yeah, exactly. The student chooses the research topic. You're not expected to have a supervisor when you join our program. That's something that happens in the first 2 years. You will find a supervisor as you kind of learn more which research area you're interested in. This can be interdisciplinary research as well, and you can have a co-supervisor as well. And this co-supervisor could also be from a different department, not only necessarily from economics. And you have also at the end, you will have a committee consisting of other committee members that can help you, guide you in your research. Yeah, I'm not seeing any more questions at the moment. So, there's one more.
All right. Oh. Masters, as long as it was taught in English, you do not need to submit the IELTS score. After you submit the application, please send me an email asking for a waiver for your English proficiency. Include your newly created UCID number. I will look up the application and I will review the application for waiving English proficiency from your file.
Great. Okay, so any final questions? And in the chat or via audio.
Okay, the only thing that I'd like to mention is that everyone, if you are planning to apply, you don't need to wait for the deadline. Of course, you can submit your application, which does require your referees enough time to know that they would be needing to send in a reference form for your file. The reference deadline is January 22nd for the MA program, and the reference deadline for the PhD program is 1 week past the 5th. So you can submit the application, then the automatic email goes to your referee. They will receive those deadline dates in the email, so they will have that on their file. They will upload the reference into your application. They do have 1 week past your deadline for application. However, I'd recommend not waiting. Get the application in as soon as possible. I will work on it. If there's anything to work out, we have time to do that, which is lovely to have leading up to the application. We will receive 140 master's applications and up to 80 PhD applications. So getting them in early does help.
So there is a more specific question now about the content of the coursework. Does it include principal component analysis? I am not able to answer that question right on the top of my head, because that I think also depends a bit who the instructor is of the, in this case, I would think the econometrics courses. Right, those instructors vary from year to year, and with that, the exact material that is taught can vary. And so this might be part of the material, but it might not be. What is a typical cohort of PhD for each year? Our typical cohort is somewhere between 8 or 9, maybe max 10 students. Sometimes it can be 7, so somewhere around that will be the cohort size. Let's say 7 to 10 students. Great. So if I don't see any more questions, then I would thank all of the presenters, and also Merit, thank you very much for answering all those questions and being here. And thank you to all the attendees for joining into the webinar. It was great to have you here and having all these questions. And so, we really look forward to your applications and hopefully connecting with all of you. And I'm happy to share my slides. I will ask also the other fellow presenters if they would be okay to share the slides with audience, but I for sure can send also the slides where you can see the more details about the applications. And if you have questions, please feel free to reach out by email. Thank you very much. And I wish everyone a great, I don't know where you are, which time zone you are, a great rest of the day, or good morning, or good night, or whatever. But it was great having you all here. Thank you very much, and bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.